Folks, welcome back. One of the big topics this week has been the TCG Player Sale coming up at the end of the week on Friday. How it works is, I believe you spend up to $500 and you get 10% credit back on your TCG Player account in store credit. And I believe you might get a little more if you do sign up for a membership. And I believe it is per purchase. So I think you can actually keep making multiple purchases at $500 or under. I could be wrong about that. But a lot of people are speculating this is going to be another massive move for the market. And they're right. I mean, it always has been. So every time in the past, TCG Player has ran sales like this. It's very similar fashion. Spend up to a certain amount, you get 10% back, yada, yada, yada. And it does induce a lot of buying. And usually a lot of items do make significant moves. And even after the sale's over, even after sellers start to kind of come back onto the market and relist inventory, it usually doesn't correct a lot of the items back to the prices they were before the sale. Meaning, if a box is $200 before the sale and it runs up to $230, $240, usually it doesn't correct back down to $200. It may correct back down to $220, $215, maybe even $210. But normally we do see another leg up on a lot of the, I would say, most purchased items during the sale. Now, I don't really know which items are going to be the most purchased. If I had to guess, I would think a lot of it's going to kind of center on the Sword and Shield era and probably a lot of the early Scarlet Violet era. I think a lot of people are starting to feel more comfortable buying the early Scarlet Violet stuff, the SV base, Paldea, Obsidian, Paradox, even 151. Even though there is still possibilities of reprints, and I've never said they're out of print, I've always just said there's a much lower possibility we're going to get reprints and large enough reprints to really affect anything on those early sets. Pokemon's probably going to focus on the later sets. So I think a lot of those are probably going to be, big pickups during Friday. And I also think obviously Sword and Shield, a lot of the sets that are still lower, things like the Astral Radiance, the Silver Tempest, the Brilliant Stars, maybe even things like Chilling Rain, and then possibly the earlier stuff. I know people have been asking about Battle Styles and Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze and why those haven't moved like the other ones. And the simple fact is they're just weak sets that people just don't really desire. And then you'll say, well, Alex, what about, Rebel Clash and Sword and Shield base? Well, those didn't get booster box reprints, right? Sword and Shield didn't get a booster box reprint, neither did Rebel Clash. They actually got ETB reprints when the reprints came. So that's why those are so much more scarce, and that's why the prices are high, even though most would agree those are pretty weak sets. And so that's, in my opinion, where I see a lot of the dollars going. And then obviously the singles market will obviously see a little bit of a bump too on some of the most popular singles. And so what I've been getting asked is, Alex, are you making any plays on this TCG Player Day? Me, look, when it comes to the plays I make, I don't really base my decisions off, when a sale hits or anything like that. But it does kind of coincide with something I have been paying attention to and starting to kind of, nibble at is the alt arts. And I'm not trying to say this to shill anything, so don't freak out, guys. I'm not even saying this is going to be a good play for, next week and next month, even maybe this year. I don't know. But one thing I do know is when you look back at all the other eras, right? Go back to Sun and Moon, go back to XY, go back to previous eras. One thing that has remained consistent is sealed product continues to make new legs up over time, and it normally does not give back a lot of it and ends up going stagnant, and we give a little bit back before it makes another leg up, and it pretty much has a consistent upwards momentum chart, right? The same thing goes in a different fashion for some of the most popular, most rare, and most sought after singles, okay? If you go back and look at Sun and Moon for some of the, most sought after singles, right? A lot of the tag team alt arts, even going back to like the Mewtwo GX from Shining Legends. You go back to XY, you look at a lot of these mega evolutions. You look at the Silver Dialga. Just go look at some of the most popular characters in the most sought after cards. They've had times of ups, they've had times of downs, but when you expand the chart out for the life cycle of those cards, they have seen a consistent run up. And some have lower population reports than others. I know everyone's always worried about the population reports, but I truly believe these Sword and Shield alt arts are going to continue to make new legs up over time. And I always think the best time to buy things are when we've seen massive corrections. In my mind, some of these Sword and Shield alt arts, especially in PSA 10s, have seen a 20 to 30% plus correction. That's a massive correction in my mind. Everyone can have their own opinion on what's a big correction. In my mind, that is a massive correction. And so one of the things I have been eyeing is Sword and Shield alt arts. Reason is, they are some of the rarest cards to ever pull in the hobby. The VMAX alt arts from Sword and Shield era, right? When you look at the Chilling Rains, the Evolving Skies, the Fusion Strikes, those literally are, I believe, the hardest cards to hit in the hobby. I know Evolving Skies VMAXs are like 1 in 18 or 1900 packs, which is harder to hit than a specific SIR in Prismatic Evolutions. TCG Player Infinite puts the numbers out. Prismatic Evolutions Sunbreon is actually easier to hit on average than the Moonbreon from Evolving Skies. All of those Evolving Skies in Chilling Reign and Fusion Strike VMAXs are overall some of the hardest cards to hit. So they're the hardest cards to pull, all right? That's just a fact. And so that's already a huge leg up right there. 2, I understand the population reports are higher than other eras. But in my opinion, the demand is so much higher for those alt arts than the cards in Sun and Moon and XY, even though they are popular. If those cards had the same population reports as alt arts, you wouldn't see anywhere near the prices you would see in a lot of those cards. And so I believe what Sword and Shield meant for the hobby, the amount of popularity and how many people actually want those cards in their collection is so much higher in demand that it offsets the population reports being a little bit higher than some of the cards we've seen in the past. And what I mean by a little bit higher, guys, some of these cards back in Sun and Moon, they still have population reports in the thousands. And so a lot of these alt arts are only 2, 3, 4x more than what we saw in Sun and Moon. So you have to ask yourself, do I think there's 2, 3, 4x more demand for a lot of these alt art cards than what we saw in XY? Yeah, I do. I personally do. And so when I think about that, I'm like, yeah, I think we're probably going to continue to see legs up. And when I like to buy things like this is on a downturn. And so, yeah, one of the things I have been cognizant of and picking up when I have a chance to is alt arts for Sword and Shield. Now, you can go the PSA 10 route or you can go the raw route. I think some of the PSA 10s have seen a little bit bigger corrections on some of the alt arts, but the singles have seen huge corrections as well. Do not look at the TCG player charts. They have not caught up. Make sure you go look at what they're actually being listed at in near mint and what they're actually selling at. 'Cause I was looking at the charts before this. The charts do not do it justice. A lot of the charts have not kept up and it makes it look like they haven't seen that much of a correction, when in reality, a lot of the cards are being listed far under what the charts actually show in near mint. And you can pick them and from legitimate sellers. It's not some weird, low sale from a zero feedback seller. All legitimate sellers, the prices have dropped quite a bit. And so if you've been looking to pick something like that up for your collection, you've been waiting for your opportunity. And personally, I think this is starting to get to an opportunity. Now, I'm not one of the people that tries to time the exact bottoms and tops in markets. And so if you're going to leave comments like, Alex, I think it's going to continue to trend down like this during summer, I don't think we're at the bottom yet. Great. Maybe we're not. Then don't buy, right? I know one thing though. Do you think it's going to go down another 10%? Because if not, you may be better off just buying some on the TCG player sale, getting that extra 10% back, and now your cost basis is 10% lower than it already is. So if a card you're looking at has already dropped 15, 20, 25, 30%, well, now that means you got that 25, 30, 35, 40% less than what you did at the highs, a month, 2 months, 3 months ago. Something to think about. But again, not telling you to rush out and buy it. I don't think it's some kind of time sensitive thing where if you don't get in now, you're going to miss out type thing. It's just when I survey the market and I'm looking around at plays, I'm not buying Destin Rivals boxes to invest in at $250, $260, right? I still think Journey Together is probably going to continue to erode away a little bit. I don't think, it's great pickup at $200 a box still for a long-term investment. I have been picking up some of the earlier SV sets when I had chances to get them at the right prices, but I'm not picking up a lot of the later ones. I've already had my Sword and Shield positions, so I'm not picking up more Sword and Shield personally for myself. Not saying it's not a good pickup, especially the ones that haven't had as massive of a run as some of the big ones. But for me, when I'm looking around right now, I don't have a lot of places to put money right now that I feel super comfortable. And so when I look at alt arts right now, I start to feel a lot more comfortable putting my money into things like that when they've had massive drops. And this is not a play thinking, well, the boxes are going up, so obvious singles will follow. Guys, do not get in that line of thinking. It will disappoint you time and time again. Just because a box goes up does not mean the singles will follow. Just because Sword and Shield base set is running up does not mean the full art Marnie or the Snorlax Rainbow Rare is going to have a massive run, right? Just because, Rebel Clash moves doesn't mean the boss's orders is going to run, right? There's not always a one-to-one correlation on sealed running and singles running. And so it's not that I think because all the Sword and Shield boxes are going on a run, I think alt arts are next because of that. I think it because of all the other situations and reasons that I laid out before you. And so I think there is going to come a time, just like what happened with Sun and Moon, with the tag teams, with other of the top hits, just like it happened with XY, with a lot of the mega evolutions. I think we're going to get to a time here, especially as we get out of Scarlet Violet era, move to the next era, where people are starting to go back and say, well, this is kind of my last chance. If I want these in my collection, I don't think they're going to continue to get much cheaper. I think I need to start picking them up. And I think more and more people are going to continue to do that. And I think you're going to see the supply actually continue to drop on the market, because one thing I've noticed, especially if you go back and look at supply levels of Sun and Moon and XY cards, they continue to drop. And although population reports, the actual amount in existence goes up, we see less and less on the market as time goes on. And what happens is all the flip and dip and all that stuff kind of erodes away. A lot less people are flipping the cards and trying to grade and make their money. And all those cards eventually end up in people's collections. And then you'll say, well, Alex, there's 15,000 Moonbryons though. And it's like, well, yeah, Pokemon's a worldwide hobby. Why do you think they print billions of cards? Why do you think they print hundreds and hundreds of thousands of every booster box and hundreds of thousands of every ETB and all these different products? Because there's that many people that want to open it and collect Pokemon throughout the world. Now try to expand your mind and think of the entire world. Do you not think there's at least 15,000 plus collectors out there who want these cards in their collections? That's what I always go back to. And when I think about that, I'm like, yeah, I believe there's more than 15,000 people worldwide that can afford a $500, $1,000, $2,000 slab and want in their collection because they feel like Sword and Shield era is iconic. They know that was kind of when the big pandemic boom happened. So many people found the hobby. So many people have nostalgia already tied to that era. So many parents and kids were stuck inside during COVID and open packs together and have that memory together. And they're going to want to collect it in the future. They're going to want to keep it in their collections. And that's why you see fewer and fewer of these actually, make it to the open market. And in my opinion, in another 5 years, you're not going to see as many available on the market of these cards as you do right now. And as availability in the market goes down, prices go up. And it doesn't matter how many are out there. It's kind of the same argument I have with people about booster boxes. Well, Alex, I know people with warehouses full of these boxes. Are they on the market? Well, no, then it doesn't matter, right? I don't care if somebody has an airplane hangar full of Evolving Skies boxes. Evolving Skies is going to keep going up unless all those boxes hit the market. Now, we can talk about this Armageddon type scenario where some giant investor decides, they're done with the hobby and they're going to dump it all in the market at once. And maybe it does crash the market for a period of time until it kind of gets washed out. But I would rather live with the higher probability than these lower Armageddon type probability moments. And in that perspective, I think it's more likely that things are going to continue on the same pattern. A lot of these top hits, top Pokemon, most chased after rare cards in the hobby are going to continue to be put away into permanent collections, at least for, 10, 20, 30 plus years. And I truly believe this is another good opportunity to pick them up. Now, does it mean it was the best opportunity ever? No. I've made videos, a year, 2 years ago saying, hey, alt arts are a good pickup now. Then they ran. Then they came back down. I made another video. Alt arts are a good pickup. But Alex, you said they were a good pickup back at $300. Now they're $800. Yeah, I still think they're a good pickup. And then they'll run to $1,200 and they'll drop to like $8, $9 or $1,000. I'll say, yep, they're a good pickup. Now they just dropped another 20, 25%. Anytime you see a correction, it's still a good pickup. If a stock, right? If a stock goes from $50 to $100, right? And then drops to 75, is it not a good buy? I mean, as long as the company is still, going in the right direction, their products and services are still selling and their guidance is still good, everything's fine. Yeah, it's a good pickup because even though it's not the lowest it was, it's still 25% off the highs. And that's how I feel. And so that's kind of my long-winded speech on what I'm picking up right now. I'm really targeting the alt arts right now. And then also I'm still looking into Sword and Shield early era stuff, even though, yeah, we technically could get reprints. I know all the people that are fearful of investing in anything before it hits like the official, out of print date when it's no longer in rotation and they won't buy a single thing before that. I know it scares all them, but for me, I truly think the possibility is so low. We're going to get a large enough reprint. Again, guys, there's three things that go into a reprint. I talked about this in my live stream yesterday, and I'm going to end the video with this. Sorry for the long-winded video here, but reprints means zero without context. All right. So stop letting this hobby and all these content creators freak you out with the word reprint. It's meant to cause reactions. It's meant to put in titles and thumbnails and get all the views. Look at the most viewed video on my channel. It's literally like Paldea Evolve reprints because everyone just is so amped up about reprints. Guys, reprint in and of itself means nothing without context. The context you need is how large is the reprint? What products are getting reprinted? Is it booster boxes? Is it bundles? Is it some new collection box like Blooming Waters or Sea and Sky? What is it? And the fourth thing is, what price are people getting it from distributors? What price are they actually able to pick it up? Because if Surging Sparks gets a reprint and distributors sell it for $180 a box to stores, and it's a small reprint, does it really matter? And so the word reprint in and of itself has no power, no meaning. It's everything that goes with it determines how much strength it's going to have and how much, pull it's going to have on affecting the market. And so try not to let all those things bother you until you know all the information, because right now, in my opinion, I don't think a lot of these early sets are going to get enough of a reprint, and the reprint's going to be sold at a price, or we're going to get all the booster box reprints at this point that's going to affect them enough. That's why I'm happy to pick up SV Base, Paldea, Obsidian, Paradox, 151, and so on. And so that's kind of things I'm targeting, guys. Again, we'll see how it is. I put my views out here live, online for everyone to see, for everyone to either, mock and laugh at, or, for me to be right in the future. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. As long as I am right a majority of the time, I'm happy. I'm always going to get some things wrong, but I truly believe these are the areas that I'm going to feel comfortable attacking right now. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys pick up some great stuff on Friday. Anything you've been, kind of holding off on, waiting for a time to pick it up when it's lower. Well, some stuff's lower right now, and 10% off, that's a pretty good discount. So that's all I got. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm out.